and TK joining us from over at the Court Street Cafe in downtown Port Allen. Today on Sports Source Daily, we're going to get into talking about the national championship game. Obviously, Georgia, come from behind win, fourth quarter win. Stetson Bennett, is it the best story in college football in the last decade? We'll get into all that. Nick Saban, very classy in defeat, almost as if I don't want to say it was okay with it, but maybe even somewhat expected it, to me, was his reaction after the game. Plus, I think he knows he might win it next year. They're pretty going to be loaded. We'll get into that. Also, LSU basketball tonight. Tommy will have a pick for you on that game. The Tigers getting 2.5 points on the road at Florida. Both LSU men's and women's ranked number 12 in the AP poll. That's pretty cool. So we'll get into that big game tonight for LSU on the road in Gainesville. And we'll talk a little NFL and everything else going on. Kevin Faulk also. We'll get into Kevin Faulk. We got a great little highlight video to show you, and we'll talk about Kevin Faulk. Very candid, very emotional as he is going into the College Football Hall of Fame class of 2022, which Glenn Dorsey just went into in December in Las Vegas. So big honor for Kevin Faulk. He had a press conference yesterday at LSU and was very open, talked about a lot of things, including getting fired, the passing of his daughter, you name it. He was very emotional and very open, and that's not something Kevin's a big media guy. So that was a nice treat and super happy for him. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more. Let's bring in Tommy Chrysan, who joins us from Court Street Cafe in Port Allen. TK, good morning.
Good morning. One thing, Court Street Cafe, the rest of this week closes at 2 p.m. Breakfast, lunch only, rest of the week. And we'll keep you posted on Sports Shorts Radio this Saturday. They're scheduled to go back to the full days on Monday. So Court Street Cafe, Port Allen. Yeah, good morning, Ronnie, on a Wednesday, hump day.
Talk to me about your thoughts on the Georgia-Alabama game. By the way, we know that it was the second lowest rated national championship game, or the second least amount of fans that have watched the playoff finals since that they started keeping tabs on that. Those Nielsen's came out. Why do you think that was, and what was your reaction to the game?
Well, I read where it's one of the top 10 viewed programs of 2021, of the season, whatever, 22.5 million watched or something. But hey, I picked Alabama. I got the first half line correct. Missed on the money line and the +3. It's not that I didn't think Georgia could win. Certainly it was, when the point spread's 2.5 or 3, either team clearly has a great chance to win the game. I was impressed with Georgia, in particular in the fourth quarter. Nick Saban said it after the game. They kicked their ass in the fourth quarter. But Georgia, the blitzing, they didn't sack Bryce Young in the SEC championship game. They got after him and forced him to throw the ball when he didn't want to, forced him to move more than he wanted to move. The Georgia defense was that defense we saw all year other than the SEC championship game. And I was happy for Kirby Smart and Georgia, the whole thing about no title for 41 years and, everything. We all know the story. But I thought it was a pretty darn good football game, and Georgia made the difference in the fourth quarter on both ends of the field, offense, defense, and Bama didn't get it done. It's like when LSU had a chance to beat Bama in Tuscaloosa, just didn't get it done. Bama didn't get it done here. Georgia's your national champs. 3 straight years now. The SEC wins the national championship 2019, 2020, and 2021. And that might be why your TV numbers you pointed out. Everybody knows SEC is the best football conference in America, and it's not even close. But some fans would, we ain't not watching that. They're saying it's a rematch and blah, blah, blah. Chance is right. The people on the West Coast and in the Midwest and up to the East Coast, they're jealous. They're envious of the SEC, and they just don't want to pay attention to it. And I wonder this, Ronnie. I wonder this. You and I were talking before the tape rolled here. I wonder how much the disaster that is known as the transfer portal is already affecting college football fans. I'm not talking about Georgia fans, LSU fans, or UCLA fans. I'm talking about fans, people who just love the game of college football. And maybe that soured it a little bit already. I think it's going to have a huge effect next fall, but I don't know. Hey, tip my hat to the Georgia Bulldogs. They got it done. They got look right. There was a lot of talent on that football field Monday night on both sidelines. Wow.
Yeah, there's something to be said about that, Tommy. The headline, which is an interesting one, is this is the headline that was in Sports Illustrated. It said the story of the college football national championship ratings tells the story that the college football national championship ratings tell is in the eye of the beholder. In one hand, 22.6 million viewers across ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, all the different platforms watched the game when you total all those numbers, which is up big from 18.7 million a year ago when Ohio State to Bama in 2021. But it was also the second lowest college football since 2015. And from a Nielsen's rating standpoint, it was the lowest since 2005. So you still had the mass of people because you were able to, on all the different platforms, add it up to look like a big number. But on one hand, it doesn't have the actual dominance of, hey, what's on? Let me watch it. And that's probably more to do, Tommy, with all the different streaming levels and all the different options that are out there, as much as it does the demise of football. But I will say this. I think that there's something to be said for a regional championship. These two teams again, and there's no national, at least Ohio State or you got East Coast, West Coast, South. This is just two teams that are neighbors in the South. There's something to be said for that. They already played just a few weeks ago. But I do, you bring up the portal, and Chance says, by the way, that we'll get off of the LSU's using duct tape to assemble a football roster this year. The portal giveth and the taketh away, because it seems like every day they lose and add. But I do think that when it comes to the transfer portal, man, there is going to be a lack of passion. There's going to be a lack of just inherent, loyalty. And no matter what, I'm buying my season tickets, and no matter what, I'm traveling, and no matter what, I'm tailgating all day long. As this thing goes on, Tommy, and you see players are 1-year free agents now. Imagine this. You're a player and you come to LSU. You're a 4 or 5-star player, which is the majority of the guys they get. You come to LSU and you don't play as much as you like, or you miss home, your girlfriend back home, and you get in an argument, whatever. Boom, in the transfer portal. I want to go someplace else. I'm not happy here, because the freshman year for everybody is tough. It doesn't matter, you play football or not. Or you come in, you end up playing really well, your freshman year, sophomore year, and you become a star. Now you're a free agent, because now you're going, hey, I'm a star. Everybody wants me. Let me go in the portal and see how much money gets thrown my way. And so either way, if you're a college football coach, you can't get paid enough, Tommy, to coach college football, because now I got to recruit the kid all through high school. I got to recruit the kid the whole time he's at LA. There's never a moment where you can go, he's here, I got him. You are got to hold his hand, kiss his ass, and treat him like a baby, and hope that's the right way to treat him. Because at any moment they can go in the portal, and if they're too good, they can be a free agent. I mean, look at the quarterback at Oklahoma. Quarterback at Oklahoma is a freshman, starts half the games. He's a great player. He's going to win the Heisman Trophy and maybe compete for a national championship if he just stays at Oklahoma. Instead, I'm going in the portal because I'm really good and I'm a free agent. And the first thing we see is $1 million offer from Charlie Batch in Eastern Michigan, and he doesn't even blink at it. Yeah, I'm not going to Eastern Michigan, because he's going to make more than $1 million going somewhere else. It's sick. It's gross. It's fair. I get it. Coaches can make all kind of money, so players can make some. I get all that. They have a right to make as much as they want, but I also have a right to not like it, and I have a right to be disgusted by how gross it is. And I mean, UL Lafayette's teams get pillaged right now. Guys are leaving. It's just not fun, and it's going to hurt the landscape of college football over the long run.
Well, the NCAA means no clue at all. They didn't prepare for the NIL when they knew it was coming. This transfer portal, there's really no rules. I know there's some, but it's just, you said it. It's 1-year free agency with no salary cap. The NFL has a salary cap. The NBA, Major League Baseball, everybody has salary caps except for college sports now, and there's a lot of money involved. So Chance is right. The portal, the NIL, and we talked about this before we rolled tape. It's pushing fans away from college football in general. You're not going to have guys who, and a lot of people like to bet on football. But these people aren't going to, hey, who's playing on the West Coast later tonight? I won a little money. I want to try to make it bigger. Or I lost some money today. Let me see who's playing late. People are just going to follow their team, their conference, and then they're going to find something else better to do with their time. I mean, that's a fact. It's unfortunate for college football, and I totally blame the NCAA. They couldn't be more clueless to not get ready for this. I mean, this has been coming for a while, and they did nothing to get ready. And in the transfer portal, I guess that was put in because of COVID. I'm not even sure. But then they didn't put any rules in, and now it's out of control. Transfer portal should be May 1st.
Stephen Miller saying NIL is certainly not being used for what it was intended for initially. Kids are walking around campus with their hand out for doing nothing. In a couple of years, these companies will pull back on shelling out big bucks for not finishing out career at a program. Well, you know,
they're already doing that.
Here's the thing, Stephen, is it's all about the contract. I mean, a sponsor has the right to put in whatever language they want in a contract. We're talking about a deal with a player for an NIL, and the deal can be a 1-year deal, a 2-year deal. It can even say, hey, if you transfer to XYZ school, this deal is null and void. I mean, you can put that in there, and I'm sure a lot of them do. But here's the thing. If you're a good enough player, you're just going to get another deal from another school. And like you mentioned, the NIL, on one hand, Tommy, I'm 100% behind it. Human beings should be able to make as much money as they want, doing whatever they want. Coaches have no loyalty; they jump ship and make just continue to make more and more and more and more and more. Where the colleges, they go, hey, we're going to give you a buffet, all you can eat. How about that? So I get it from a standpoint of it's the right thing to do, but the structure is not correct. To me, there needs to be some parameters. And then the other thing is, you mentioned, at least in the NBA and every other league, there is a salary cap, or there's a penalty for spending too much money. You brought up the other day, Texas A&M's got a pot of $30 million roughly is what's being reported to go get NIL people on an annual basis. $30 million. That's probably more than the Tampa Bay Rays spent for most of their franchise history, okay? There's not many people, if any, that can compete with a pot of money of $30 million a year to basically be spent to buy players. And so it is going to be, if you want parity, you ain't going to get it. It is going to be the haves and the have-nots. It is going to be super teams that have that big $30 million pot of money that can go out and give each, decent player $1 million a year to come there. And then it's going to be everybody else who's just getting pillaged. If you got a decent player, that player's gone, and including LSU. It used to be that we thought this would be something UL or Louisiana Tech or Tulane or whatever would have to deal with. They're the ones that are going to lose their star players to the likes of the LSUs and the SEC. No. It's going to be LSU because they ain't got the $30 million. And so we're seeing that already. I mean, some of LSU's better players are out, and I guarantee you, LSU and the athletic department and the school, they never thought for a minute that their best players would be leaving to go anywhere else. Because why would you? We're LSU.
Yeah, well, the other problem is going to happen is the NILs are going to start being incentive based. Okay, Miles Brennan got a big NIL deal, injured before the first day of practice. So I don't know if there was anything in his contract, but what about when he's like, if I own Tommy's hardware store and I do an NIL with Ronnie Rance, the pitcher at LSU. Ronnie, look, if you make 10 starts, you're going to get this amount of money. Ronnie, if you win 8 games, you're going to get this amount of money. And then the coach and the players are going to be like, hey, coach, you got to put me in. I got a good NIL deal, David McCartney, the old baseball teammate of mine in Pensacola, Florida, right there. But anyway, so it's just a mess. And they got to, I know it's hard to unscramble the egg. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, but they better do something very quickly. Or as somebody said earlier, Chance, the fan base is just going to go find something else to do with their time and their money. And that's just the way it's going to be. Take a picture. There's already the way too early top 25 poll out for college football next year. I'm going to go top 12 teams are basically going to be the top 12 teams going forward for the rest of the time. And every now and then there'll be a team will pop in there like Cincinnati popped in there this year. But every now and then somebody will hit a downturn like the Hurricanes in Florida State have hit downturns in the last 5 years or whatever. So, but the Alabamas, the Clemsons, the Texas A&Ms, the Georgia Bulldogs, Ohio State, Oklahoma, those teams are – Michigan looks like they're in the right spot now. but they might lose their coach. But 8 NFL jobs open. So I don't know, man. It gives us plenty to talk about on Sports Shorts Daily and Sports Shorts Radio, and gives all our colleagues plenty to talk about. But wow, the whole other, good point, Jenny. But here's the other thing, Ronnie. These kids don't realize they got to pay taxes on all this money. There ain't many 18, 19, 20-year-old kids that know a lot about filling out their tax form.
Well, I do know that at least from that perspective, the NIL stuff that they are training them, and they have to run some of it through the school. So they are doing a better job of trying to, and actually some of these NIL apps and things where they marry, the NIL deal with the player. Some of those apps now are actually starting to implement some things about helping withhold tax.
Well, what wasn't the Keyshawn Butte thing done on Match Point?
I believe it was. I'm not 100%.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I read that, and I'm on Match Point. But, that's a story for another day.
There are multiple Match Points now. Like that was the first app that we knew of here in Baton Rouge, and now there's a lot more of them, and people are probably refining them and getting them better and better and better. But and I'm sure Match Point's doing the same thing. But Craig, I'm not sure. How long does Coach Kelly wait before deciding all the transfers he can sign? I mean, he's already signed one, that safety from Arkansas yesterday, that team captain from New Orleans, but that's not a position, safety, that you'll take him. Trust me. He's a captain. He's a starter. He's a player in the SEC. He's a proven commodity. He's a senior. He's from Louisiana. You take him for 1-year deal, but we need some quarterbacks. That's what they need.
And linemen.
And a lot of things.
Offensive and defensive line. Now, there's some needs for LSU. Really, I mean, I'm not trying to rain on Orgeron's parade, but this program, he let it go way down further than he should have.
He let it go, but at the same time, Tommy, and not as an excuse, but it coincided with this whole NIL and the free transfer and COVID. It's just been a
lot of
crazy time. Some things out of his control, some things obviously in his control, and maybe but. LSU, I have a feeling, Tommy, LSU's going to fall behind for a couple of years before they get it right. And what I mean by fall behind is I don't know that they're going to be like this year and have a losing record, but they're not going to be. They're not competing with Alabama or Georgia or even A&M for that matter for national championships in the next couple of years. They've got to get their roster right. They've got to get some. The problem, though, again, is roster development. You develop them too good, they leave. They don't develop them enough, they leave. I mean. You got to get paid millions of dollars to coach college football right now, Tommy, because it's miserable. It's absolutely miserable. It's a 24-hour, 7 days a week job because you got to hold these players' hands. You got to coddle them the whole time. And I don't know that Brian Kelly has that in him. He had a different kind of kid at Notre Dame. We've heard that from Paul Maneri. Talking to Paul Maneri, it's a different type of kid at Notre Dame. There is no more loyalty. It's a completely different type of kid. It's what can you do for me? Here's my hand. It's out. What can you do for me? Give me my money. That's what he's dealing with. And I don't know if Brian Kelly at 60 years old and his background has it in him to be that guy. I don't. He's a great coach. Well, he's also old school. And I don't know that any old school coach right now is going to work other than Nick Saban just because he was grandfathered in. He's the greatest ever to do it. And now he's 70 and he's got this, aura of respect that no one else has.
Well, and that's why Brian Kelly is going to be very important, who is on his staff as well as his analysts. I mean, these are the guys who are going to have to relate with these kids even more so than Brian Kelly, on an everyday basis. I mean, they got, that's just the way it goes when you got 105, 110 kids out, at football practice every day. The head coach doesn't interact with more than 25 of them or so.
So Craig, with the point, when the coach that recruited you are fired, also added to the roster depletion. And one of those coaches, we're talking about Corey Raymond. We're also talking about Kevin Faulk. And Kevin Faulk was a guy, that beloved figure, great player, all about best running back for a career in the history of LSU. And he's let go. And he talked about that as well as other things yesterday at a press conference, talking about being named to the College Football Hall of Fame class of 2022. And he was very honest, Tommy. He said it hurt a lot, and that he does want to coach. There was some thought that maybe after the tragic death of his daughter unexpectedly during the season, and maybe he want to take some time off. Maybe he doesn't want to coach. He said, no. I didn't play all that time in the NFL and learn from the best to not coach. He wants to coach.
Yeah, well, and I hope somebody gives him an opportunity or he finds one that he wants. And I don't know what happened. Obviously, the discussion between Brian Kelly and him, even if there was one, I don't know what happened, but it's Brian Kelly's choice. You know, and look, Kevin Faulk, I know we were talking earlier. If some of you younger people go to YouTube and just look up some Kevin Faulk highlights, the things he did on the field at LSU, better than good, way better than good. And I remember, I think Todd McClure was Jerry DiNardo's first commitment, but I was at the press conference when Jerry DiNardo got hired. He left that press conference and went to Karen Crow High School to see the option quarterback, Kevin Faulk. Okay, and of course, Faulk came to LSU. We know the rest of the story. And I remember a week or two or three after that, Kevin Faulk was at LSU, and me and Steve Schneider and a bunch of the guys, we did like a group interview with him. And I was stunned at how short he was. I'm just thinking that back then. I'm going, wait a minute, this guy is good. And of course, he's got 3 Super Bowl rings and still holds LSU and SEC records, and he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm happy for Kevin, significantly happy for him. So, but I remember like, wait, this guy's kind of short.
We found some Kevin Faulk highlights on YouTube. We're going to show them to you. Now, this is not HD, so it's amazing how just in about 10 years' time, video.
Oh, you worked it out, okay.
But anyway, here's a little taste for some of y'all. We're going to go ahead and
yeah. This is a good little clip.
Let me hide Tommy and I. We'll show you this.
Play action, and you might get a long bomb.
And I'll tell you what, you might get a
dump it off to somebody.
You might get a fumble with someone hitting the quarterback in the back. Big play.
Kevin Faulk is back in the game. Here we go. This is the game. 3rd and 1. Pitch back to Faulk. He's got it in this zone. Look out. He's gone. Montgomery trying to trip him up, and he trips him up at the 18-yard line. Oh, that Kevin Faulk.
I'll tell you, he's something else.
Somebody lift that jersey. There may be an S on his chest.
I'll tell you what. Don't you know those policemen realize that they did the right thing, those cops? 24 is doing a good job. Everybody's up in there. Hey, Coach, the guy's a runner. This is a good job by our kid there getting on his heels.
I've got him at 246 yards rushing for Kevin Faulk. And remember, his last game, he rushed for 234 yards. That was in the Independence Bowl against Michigan State.
Now, who's in there? He's not in there now.
I'll tell you what, TK, that that Houston game, I mean, I know a lot of people remember he had the great punt return as well, and of course over 200 yards. The thing that I was impressed about with Kevin Faulk was just his versatility. He could catch it, he could run it, he returned game. Every time he touched the ball, he was always the potential to take it to the house. And he was the first star. He had some good linemen, obviously, as it turns out. He had Mawai early on Kevin, I think, was gone. But, by the time he got there, Mawai was gone. But he had, obviously, McClure, and we know he had Faneca and
McClure and Faneca, that was 2 pretty good to run behind, right? You and I might have picked up a yard dead.
But, what was interesting about the press conference yesterday when he talked about those days, this is a guy who, remember, he turned down his junior year, came back for a senior year. And there was a running back room with Rondell Mealy and Kendall Cleveland and others that were, Cecil Collins, that were all in that room. And he said to this day, they're all part of a group thread with Herb Tyler and other people, and they keep in touch kind of on a daily basis, which is really cool. But it was so refreshing to hear Kevin Faulk talk about, we just wanted to help LSU win, and it was about our school. And those days are gone. We are never going to hear that kind of talk again. The Glenn Dorsey's turning down their junior year to come back for their senior year and to play for a national championship, and that, which was 14 years ago, 13 years ago. Those days are over. 15 years ago, those days are over. They're never happening again. Kids are laugh at people that have that mindset, and it's such a shame. And that's what we go back to. I think is the demise of what's going to happen with college football. It's not the same. Those days are over. The joys of watching a guy for 3, 4, 5 years are over. That's why Stetson Bennett's such a great story. But it was refreshing yesterday to hear Kevin Faulk talk about what the school meant to him, what DiNardo meant to him, what his teammates meant to him. You don't hear that anymore.
Well, and Ronnie, that doesn't happen today because when Kevin committed to DiNardo and signed with LSU, they were coming off firing Curly Hallman and having 4 really bad years. No star player is going to go to a school that's had 3, 4, 5 bad years and fires a coach because of the landscape now. But no, I mean, again, folks, do yourself a favor. Google some Kevin Faulk highlights, not just the clip we showed you, but some of the other things. And I'm sure they're going to put some stuff together for when he goes into the Hall of Fame. And I know you guys have a package at the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. So do yourself a favor and go watch it and realize how damn good he really and truly was. And there's also a good video out there of Jerry DiNardo talking about Kevin Faulk. And, I did radio with Jerry DiNardo for 6 months before he left for the XFLs. I got pretty close to Jerry, and it was cool to watch him talk about Kevin Faulk, albeit, 25, 26 years ago that happened. But he's still he's the greatest. I got to be careful with it. He's one of the greatest running backs that LSU's ever seen.
The Mount Rushmore of LSU running backs, obviously Billy Cannon, Charles Alexander, Kevin Faulk, and Leonard Fournette.
That would be a good 4.
The 3.
Dalton Hilliard wasn't too bad.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I think Kevin Faulk, Charles Alexander, and Billy Cannon are not debatable. You got a Heisman Trophy.
Then you could get into, do you put Fournette? Do you put Dalton Hilliard?
Right. I'm thinking that 4th guy is more the conversation. Who?
Yeah. Cannon Cannon and Faulk and Charles Alexander. That's done. Start chiseling the cement.
Right.
The other one, we could have some fun with some conversation, and really, there's a handful of guys that you can make a case for.
Yeah, no doubt that 4th guy. Maybe you could rotate the face. Once every 5 years, you put a new face up. I don't know, but for my money, Leonard Fournette and Dalton Hilliard. I'm thinking more in the problem.
Harvey Williams.
Who's that?
Harvey Williams.
No, I don't think. He had some moments, but
Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
But then he did it for 1 year. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
the problem with the modern day player is it's always going to be.
They're not going to do it for 3, 4 years like Faulk did.
The most, right? The days of 3 and 4 year star running backs are over. That ain't happening. So that's the hard part. Is where do you put him in there? But I don't know.
Yeah, but no, congratulations, Kevin. I know he watches us sometimes, so congratulations, man. You deserve it.
Yeah. Chance, I know. If you get that, the Dalton James gang was a great duo, no doubt about it. Led them to an Orange Bowl appearance as freshmen, which is pretty unbelievable. Speaking of the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, let's show you this right here. Going to pop this in there. 2022 induction classes coming up in June. You see some of the Tigers, Eric Andelsek being honored, Kyle Williams in the bottom right hand of your screen. He's going to be there and be a tremendous Steve Duhan, who's a rodeo champion, actually played football at LSU back in the early 80s. As a freshman, was a starter, decided to focus on rodeo, and good thing he did. He's in the World Rodeo Hall of Fame. Susan Jackson, the gymnast, and many, many others are going to be honored this June, and we have a great golf tournament that's going to be coming up in April up in North Louisiana, so we'll tell you all about that as we get a little bit closer. So a lot of events coming up in 2022 honoring those Hall of Famers. Last thing before we go, Tommy, Stetson Bennett leads Georgia to the national championship. A 5'10", 5'9", some people say, quarterback who looks more like an engineering student than he does a quarterback. And this guy just stuck around, let everybody transfer, get hurt. He just kind of just stayed true, and then all of a sudden it fell perfect for him to get an opportunity and made the most of it. What a great story.
It's a great story, and Ronnie, the day before the game, there were articles written like, can they win with Stetson Bennett at quarterback? I mean, he got maligned even though his record, they went 14-1 this year. That's not too bad. So, no, it's a great story. And maybe some more people need to look at that. He was a walk-on, and he just worked hard, waited his turn, took his time. And when he got his chance, he made the most of it. There were people during the game, Ronnie, that I was sitting with, and this is true, saying they got to put JT Daniels in if they have a chance, if they think they can win, because they can't win it with Bennett. This is like during the second quarter, third quarter. Right. Now, everybody's got an opinion. That's cool. And I'm like, hey, it's up to Kirby Smart, and But, man, it's a great story, and he's happy at the Georgia Bulldogs. I'm happy for Kirby Smart. I didn't really meet him when he was here at LSU briefly as a coach. I can't say I was around him, but he seems like a straight-up good guy. And, Georgia, their recruiting budget is bigger than anybody's in the country, including Texas A&M. So, SEC, if you don't like the SEC, find it, go support, play golf or go fishing or go hunting, because SEC football is not going anywhere.
I'll say this, Tommy, and that is that when it comes to Kirby Smart, the thing I love about him is super passionate guy, right? So you got to love that. Super high energy, intense. But and the fact that he won a national championship at a school that he played at and was a good player, right? He had 13 career interceptions and was a heck of a player. That's just, it's literally like the equivalent to Ed O, Coach O winning a national championship at LSU, where it's his dream school. It's where he's from. He grew up a fan. It's even more so for Kirby Smart. He actually wore the colors and went to battle for 4 years as a Bulldog, as opposed to Coach O played at Northwestern State. So you got to love that for a guy like that to get it done.
One other thing, Vince Dooley, and he was at the game the other night. They showed him. Ronnie, in 1982, I sat at Coach Jack Salter's kitchen table. Vince Dooley was there to recruit the running back from Covington, and we had dinner. It was like a 3-4 hour thing. It was Jack Salter, Vince Dooley, and me. That was it. The only people that was sitting there. What a great guy. And then, when he came to practice the next day, Coach Salter had me walk him around and introduce him to people. And I always was a Vince Dooley fan after that, because at the time I'm like, whoa, And I'll tell you the recruiting story. He was recruiting Vincent Alexander from Covington High, who was the greatest high school running back I ever saw. And he told Vincent, he said, Herschel Walker just won the Heisman Trophy. You'll carry the ball 35 times a game, and you'll win a Heisman Trophy if you come to Georgia. That was his recruiting pitch. And Vincent went to Southern Miss instead. So that's that.
Maybe he should have gone the other way. Stephen Miller saying Danny Lewis, the big tight end from Westgate, just decommitted from Cincinnati, picks up an offer from LSU. So,
he's a good one.
Yeah.
That's very good. They need a tight end. And Brian Kelly's offense always features the tight end. If you look back over the years, there's a lot of tight ends in the NFL that played at Notre Dame.
Yeah, I remember I actually did the national championship game.
State championship.
The state championship game with Westgate in it, and he was a star in that.
He was the best dude on the field.
Yeah, he was just
big, fast,
big, strong, athletic. Knows where his body is and hands and all that. It was pretty impressive.
Well, you know what? Speaking of that, Jared DiNardo told me one time he liked recruiting tight ends out of high school. And you were a tight end, because those guys are really athletic. They can catch a little bit. They can run a little bit. They can block. They're big. They're strong. They're physical. And if you remember, one year DiNardo signed like 6 or 7 tight ends, and one of them became an offensive tackle. A couple of them became defensive linemen. But the athleticism of the tight end, and this kid Lewis at Westgate fits that mold. And so did you, Ronnie.
TK, tell us a little bit about. First off, give us a quick pick. You're gonna for those games.
Free pick for you. Sports Shorts Daily. I gave you a free pick on Sports Shorts Radio last Saturday. North Dakota State -7.5. They won by 28. So bingo, we got that one right. Here's your free pick tonight. College basketball. LSU +2.5 against Florida. 6:00 tip in Gainesville. There's your Sports Shorts Daily free pick. LSU +2.5. Might win straight up, but I'll take the 2.5.
Yeah.
Court Street Cafe, breakfast and lunch the rest of the week. They're going to return to the full day schedule next week. We'll keep you posted on Sports Shorts Daily and Sports Shorts Radio. Also, special program announcement. Hold the Rope Radio will not be Sunday night due to the NFL playoffs. It'll be Saturday 1 to 3 on ESPN 104.5 Baton Rouge. So you got Sports Shorts Radio 10 to 12. Then I'm going to go from the Bruley Walk-Ons to Sammy's and have Hold the Rope Radio with Skip Bertman, Dan Canterbury, great guests that we have. I don't know who
you can do like a fried shrimp comparison. Get you a fried shrimp platter at Walk-On.
Well, I can already speak on both, but when I go to Sammy's, I get the black and red fish. It's an A+.
Yeah.
But So that's a busy day for radio Saturday. Want everybody to check that out. And Court Street Cafe, breakfast, lunch. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram. They got an event coming up at the end of the month. We'll tell you about next week. And, of course, breakfast, lunch, Court Street Cafe. A lot of people in here eating breakfast when I got here this morning. You really need to check it out. It's really good. Great pricing, great service, friendly people here. Court Street Cafe in Port Allen.
All right, we'll be back Friday morning. By then, we'll talk a little more. We'll talk some LSU hoops. We'll obviously know what happened with LSU Florida, and we'll tell you what other players are in the transfer portal from LSU. Tell you what other guys.
Wait, no, Ronnie. I think it'll be easier. The list will be shorter if we say the guys who are not in the portal.
Right, easy, definitely. He's Tommy.